Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. Jeff and Robert are here. Have no fear. And we also have our very special returning cast, neck and neck, with most appearances on this program with Jack Areno Sweeney. He got one in a couple weeks ago, so the arms race will continue. MarkAlain Dery, what's happening, brother?
I prefer a thumb war, so maybe I could see him and we could do a thumb war and see if that's even better.
The true battle of supremacy can be fought out on the battlefield of the thumb in the ring. So Robert, what's going on, brother?
A lot of things. The Superb Al is in town.
And so is the National Guard, right?
Since we don't have the rights to the NFL, I'm trying to keep Dr. Dery out of trouble. We'll just refer to it as a Superb Al.
The big game.
Right? But no, it's disgusting. I'm very upset. Like, you guys wanted me to tell a story, but I figured I'd wait. Just the idea of walking around, like I work in the quarter, and walking around and seeing National Guard troops with M4s with magazines in the magazine well is just like, I'm like, do I live in Gaza? Do I live in the West Bank? Is this the Troubles in Ireland in the 90s? Like, what is this? And I'm just like, all this is to make the richest people on earth feel comfortable, and it serves no purpose. So you've got, so if anybody okay, so I'm going to get real, like, Lee Greenwood, Marine Corps vet nerd. The National Guard, because of the United States Constitution, they have no powers on the street. They have no police powers because of Posse Comitatus and stuff like that. So it's like, they're down there loaded for bear for what? If some woman gets her, her purse snatched, are they just going to start laying down 5.56 rounds on Royal Street? No, they're not going to do that. If there's a terrorist, do you think any kind of organized, like, terror cell is worried about those guys and not working around them? So they're not there to stop terrorism. So what are they there for? The only thing I can come up with is they're there to terrorize the citizens of New Orleans on their own streets. And the thing is, like, I had a confrontation with one of these dudes, just happenstance, and my, like, inner VFW, I thought of my white grandfather, Raymond, who was he was in World War II. Like, he kind of just, like, possessed me, and he came out of me, and I'll lay down the story of what happened. So if you're on Canal, and you know where the Marriott is on Canal, they have, like, a burger place attached to the Marriott, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go get a burger. They've got an Impossible Burger, and the onion rings are actually good. I'm not they actually do good onion rings, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this. So I go in there.
As American a thing as you could possibly do, go and get a burger and onion rings.
So by the time I go in, hit the kiosk, my Impossible Burger with onion rings comes out. I'm flirting with the cashier lady, and by the time that happens, all of all of Canal Street is now blocked off. No traffic's coming back and forth, and, like, pedestrian traffic has stopped moving. Why, you ask?
How long did it take to make those onion rings?
Not that long. I mean, I would say 5-6 minutes max, right? Yeah. But by the time I walk up out of there, all traffic is ceased. And why, might you ask? Is because the Chiefs have now pulled up to the Marriott because that's where they're staying. I am like, this is crazy. I'm, like, boxed in now. There's just, like, there's, like, NOPD guys and National Guard guys and all kinds of stuff, like, all around me. And The next thing so I'm like, I don't care anything about Patrick Mahomes I don't care if Taylor Swift's on that bus. I don't care. My first gig here was at the House of Blues. I am not starstruck. I do not care. So I had to start walking back to my job, and this nasty guard dude starts running towards me, going, whoa, 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 and puts his hand on his M4. And I just said, to not get an FCC violation, I use expletives, but I said, if you don't get out of my face right now. And he looked at me crazy, and I said, I'm giving you orders because you can't give me orders. And he still just stood there like he'd never been talked to. And I'm just like, I walked around him, and I like hopped over the barricade. And I'm just like, the thing that this is where I say like my inner like Raymond came out of me. The thing that I has always been told as a veteran, as why you join the United States military, is we got to fight them over there so that way we don't have troops on our streets here. And here we are. And I'm like, this is insane. So, I mean, maybe if it's so dangerous in the city of New Orleans that you feel that you have to have assault rifles on the street to stop God knows what, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have the Super Bowl here, which is there's been plenty of studies done, peer-reviewed studies, that whatever city the Super Bowl, it's like the Olympics, but not as bad. Whatever city the Super Bowl lands in, it's a net economic negative. That money does not recirculate here. It goes right out. Ain't no housekeeper cleaning a hotel room getting a Super Bowl bonus this week. Those exorbitant rates, those taxes are going right to Baton Rouge, and that money is going right to the headquarters that are not headquartered here of these hotels and restaurant chains and whatnot. I can understand if you got a mom and pop restaurant or whatever, and you might see a little more motion, but not any more than you would see during Mardi Gras.
And then, of course, the trafficking that occurs as well. Speak to that.
Yes, I can't. Please, no, I just know it anecdotally, but I mean, if you have more information about it, but yes, that is
just like you said anecdotally. Just that I know that there are a number of studies, and there are people who can definitely speak more intelligent than I can about this. That the sex trafficking that occurs, especially amongst minors, is pretty significant, and of course that is a tragedy as well, because whenever you're going to bring in rich people, bring in rich men, you are going to bring in abusive behaviors as well. And so it's sad to think that, and I don't know if you guys can hear sirens. I apologize. I live,
no, I can't actually. You're good.
Got it. I live in downtown. Our windows are open, and there's sirens all. And that's another thing. The sirens that have been, again, I live downtown. I live on the corner of Julia and Chaptula, so we are almost in the middle of everything. And the sirens have been, the noise pollution has been pretty bad. And again, it's all just for a game. I went into the French Quarter yesterday to get some new Vans, and I needed new slip-ons, and the parking. So I went to go park. So first of all, I couldn't park anywhere because all the street parking, it was at 11:30. So I got off of work early, got out of the hospital. Was like, okay, I need new Vans. Went down to the Vans shop to go get some new slip-ons. All of the parking was completely blocked, and then I turned down one of the little side streets there where the store is, where the Vans shop is, and there was two Americanas, two great tastes that don't taste great together, was the Kool-Aid Man and the Wiener Dog. What's the
Oscar Mayer
Wiener?
Yeah, I saw him across Jackson Square.
They were filming a video. Yes, that's where I was. That's where, and they were filming a video, right? And they were filming the video of, and so I'm like, dude, I just need to park. So there was all
I'm
this
just trying to buy
parking,
shoes, man.
Right, and none of the guys would let me, because I'm like, my wife is like, just buy it on Amazon. I'm like, no, I'm still very old school. I want to go. I want to touch the shoes.
How you know if they fit? How you know if they fit?
I know they fit because I've been wearing Vans forever, and I wear size 10. So I just want to go pick them up, right? And so I finally got into the parking lot because they wouldn't let me park on the street where the free parking is. I got in the parking lot. I'm like, do I want to stress? I'm like, listen, I'll just do 15 or 20 minutes and that'll be fine. I hate paying for parking. It's my pet peeve. So I go to the parking machine, and the minimum to buy parking was for 2 hours.
Get out of here.
And the amount for 2 hours was $25.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
25. No, for the parking in the lot,
That
runs.
Those lots are
lot.
highway robbery.
No. But that's highway robbery. Now that's usually like $2.
Yeah.
When I talk to the people in the store, they're like, no, this is crazy. This is usually like, it's $1. It should be $2. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they jacked up those prices so much so.
In this city where, public transportation ain't great in the city, it's part of how they can get away with charging so much for parking as well. So there you go.
100%.
I'll tell you this, and I won't, on my sources, I don't want to give too much away, but between the way the city is being jerked around with the Super Bowl, and then now, and I will let me expand on that a little bit. So the NFL goes to these. So now that I've seen it firsthand, I've smelled the beast's breath with my own nose. What the NFL does is they descend on whatever city like a locust, and they just devour everything. And whatever you thought your city's like, policies and procedures were, they no longer are. The NFL is now calling all the shots, and how angry city officials are and city workers are with the NFL, and how there is and between that plus the Gail Benson Saints Catholic Church kitty diddling, running interference for kitty diddlers scandal, the way I've seen guys who are all they can talk about is the NFL. They're NFL experts, mm-hmm. have turned on the NFL, and then also how they've turned on the Saints. Mm-hmm. It makes my heart go pitter patter. We are in the emergence, and this is kind of the theme of I think it's going to be this whole hour of we're in the midst of like a dark awakening, mm-hmm. of how people are seeing 100%. Things mass
100%. Robert, Jeff and I were actually having the same conversation.
Literally having this conversation.
Yeah, we were having a conversation an hour ago, and I know it's going to come up naturally. And the fact that you would you were very prescient to actually see that, but 100% agree with you. And how much does it cost to go to the game?
I don't know.
What labor? Just the point is, it's a lot, right? And people like you and I are not able to afford to go to this.
You couldn't pay me.
Obviously,
I could have gotten tickets. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me to get in there. You couldn't pay me to be there. There's no way. You think I'm going to sit in the 600s with some? And God bless them, go Birds. You think I'm going to sit in the 600s with Eagles fans? These are the same people who threw snowballs at Santa Claus. They fight. Okay. I'm not doing that. I got a shirt that I love Philadelphia, but I got a shirt that I got from Philly a while ago. I'm gonna wear it this weekend, nowhere near the quarter though. But because I'm treating it like a storm. I'm not going anywhere near. I'm treating it like a natural disaster. But I have a shirt that says, Veteran Stadium, the years it was in operation, and it says Pride, Pretzels, Prison. Because they had a jail in the stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, did they really?
That's how bad it was. I think they still have a jail at Lincoln Financial for whatever they play now, but they definitely, it was famous. You fool around, you go there. They had a jail and a courthouse with a judge who would they would
sentence you right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they don't, I'm not, you couldn't pay me to be in that dome. But the way I've seen people develop class consciousness over these past really past month, now that we're seeing it. And I've been speaking up at work, and I've been saying I know it's not y'all. I'm low on the totem pole. I'm not the one in these meetings with, the NFL officials and calling the shots and all that. But I'm the thing is, we let this is the main theme of Good Morning Comrade. We let these corporations lead us around by the nose for no reason. They act like they're doing us a favor by being here, and nobody is afraid to tell them no because the kickbacks and I got 2 tickets on the slide and we're gonna get this, and so they just let them do whatever they want to do. Where the reality is, once the NFL not only announces, the New Orleans is getting the Super Bowl, once they move that first truck, once Fox and ESPN, whatever podcasters on Media Row, whatever the brands, Pepsi, Doritos, all the brands that have just taken over the city, once they move that first apparatus into the city, we're not locked in with them. They're locked in with us. So the idea of just like a city official, this will never happen in my America, but a city official, the mayor, whoever, could say, no, NFL, you're not going to do this. What are you going to do? You're going to move the game? Because you might have thought you were having a game on Sunday. I'll shut it all down. And then I'll go on every media outlet and I'll say the NFL prioritizes profit over the safety of its fans and its host city. Swear I won't do it. If it was Mayor Johnson, I would do that, but that's why I would never win. But it is what it is.
You would have to. You would add a fourth line that would be like it's cemetery. Because
absolutely.
You would that would be prison, and then I'm sure the fans would go crazy.
But isn't that the theme with America of just like
100%?
Oligarchy?
Can you explain you mentioned about the pedophile and the protection of the
really quick? Let me break into station ID. Listen to WHIV 102.3 FM as Good Morning Comrade. And also our research department did do a quick fact check on the price of a ticket. The cheapest ticket to this game is $2,651 for like the 600 section in the corner. All the way up in the sky.
Divide that by like $7.50 or $7.25 minimum wage.
Oh God!
Just like how many days? Like how many?
I know you want to talk about Gale and the Saints, but just to put a capstone on this, how disgusting this is. We have a literal concentration camp set up in Gentilly that took people that right now as we speak taking people's liberty away, homeless people for the only crime of being poor. So the richest people on earth don't have to see the poorest people on earth. What is this?
No, it is what you think it is.
Exactly.
It is exactly what it looks like. So let's move on to what you were talking about the Saints and the Catholic Church cover-up. Can one of y'all give us a rundown on that?
I mean, I know only what I haven't honestly dug that deep into it. I only know what I've been, skimming. But the idea of what happened was the New Orleans Archdiocese they busted R-wording kids, raping kids. And they had this, and so they wanted to have this whole PR push, and they wanted local media to get involved. And local media is like, we're, the TV stations and the Advocate and NOLA.com, we're like, we're not going to carry water for you on this. Like, absolutely not. But there's one organization in the city that would, and it's the Saints.
Yep.
And Gail Benson, the owner of the Saints, and she put Saints resources and money and time into running positive public relations for the Archdiocese of New Orleans, which is absolutely disgusting. It's the one thing we can take heart in is that the NFL, at the end of the day, is the corrupt, disgusting organization, but they will protect
care about PR.
They'll protect the shield.
Yeah.
This should be conduct unbecoming of an owner, and she should be stripped of the franchise. Inshallah. Hopefully, because you can't. I mean, you can't be bad. You can't put. I'm being cynical here, but you can't put a bad team on the field, and carrying water for child rapists like that. That's just not going to work. And the amount of guys who I've seen who are just like they will literally fight over the Saints, who have been like, I can't mess with this anymore.
So it's funny you should say that. So a very, very good friend of mine, huge Saints fan, several seats. He has several sections because he takes a bunch of friends and stuff like that. And he called me up. He needed some medical advice, whatever. We kind of talked through it. And I asked him about the Super Bowl. And he said to me, I'm like, oh, are you going, or do you have a box seat? Or because he's a high roller here in town. And he's like, no, man. He's like, I gave up all my seats. He's like, I don't follow the Saints anymore. I'm like, what? Really? He's like, yeah, after the whole scandal with Benson covering up for the pedophiles, he's like, that was it. I was done. He's like, I haven't watched Saints games since. That shocked me. That completely shocked me. So what you were saying a moment ago, there's a little hopium right there. Like there's a little hopium.
People have limits.
Like you said,
people do have limits.
People are waking up, and it's nice to see. But we are talking about an organization that recognizes and has hid a number of studies, or they have known for a long time, just like they hid climate change and tobacco, that football causes early dementia, causes significant damage to the brain, and the notable advanced aging that occurs amongst football players, especially those that take a number of hits to the head. And the fact that they tried to hide that for so long is disgusting. And I think that by itself needs to be remembered and recognized and shamed all the time, because we see these football players in their greatness in their 20s. They're used. I mean, this is another thing I would imagine is a theme for GMC, is how workers are exploited for such a short period of time, especially athletes like these guys that play such an aggressive game like football. These are people typically of color that are exploited for a very, very short period of time. If they're lucky, they're paid well, but then the rest of their life, they are spent suffering, and they just become a shell of themselves. And I look at somebody who I admire greatly with Muhammad Ali, but at the end of his life, the number of blows he had to take to his head, again, for the entertainment of the rich industrialized complex, or the privileged industrialized complex of this country, is shameful and embarrassing. And again, what kind of country do we live in? We know exactly the country that we live in. And maybe this is a segue, not to take your job away from you, Jeff, as you host.
No, y'all are doing great. This is easy. I'm not even working tonight.
What kind of country are we living in? I'm sure. What have been your conversations for the last couple weeks? The politics of where we are today is, this is something that the three of us have all known. And I think, where I'm at, I feel as though I have spent so much time warning. I started a radio station. Hell, I started a radio station, 102.3 WHIV. I started a radio station to talk 10 years ago. I was concerned about the moment that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah.
And
back in the halcyon days of 2015.
The before days, right?
Before problems existed.
No, but I mean, I know that we all kind of had visions that this was going to eventually happen, but we're seeing it. Like, I never thought, I thought it would get bad, but I never thought that we would see an unelected robber baron get into the OMB, find the codes and hack the codes, be able to get a bunch of 20-year-olds, hop them up on Adderall and fentanyl or whatever, ketamine, and that they could get in there and play with the codes, because they don't just have read only, they also have, or at least they're reporting that they have a write only ability to get in there, and this damage can be so destabilizing.
No, absolutely. I mean, everything you said is correct, but I don't know. I come at it from a little bit more cynical perspective, to where I don't even think it's cynical. It's just like a hot take, I would say. And I'm not, and I want to preface this with, we talked about a dark awakening. I'm not an accelerationist. I'm not an accelerationist, nor do I have the power to even accelerate. I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't buy a Trump coin. I didn't give him $1. You know what I mean? But this is not my fear. This is actually, I don't want to say I'm excited, because people are being hurt. People are going to die. It's terrible. But this is, if we're going to go through this hell, this is the way I want to go through it. My biggest fear was this happening under neoliberalism, and there would be no resistance. Now, when just to swing it to Gaza real quick, for example, when Trump says we're going to take over Gaza, I applauded. I clapped, because I was jumping up and down like a hyena, because that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear the flowery neoliberalism of an Obama or a Biden, because that's just one more layer of lies that we have to cut through to get to the real enemy. It's one more. It's one more shield that neoliberals can hide behind, that we're somehow doing things for the greater good, that the lies that we've always been told. now that the mask is off, millions of people, after Trump said, we're going to take over Gaza, millions of people woke up the next morning and said, I see what the problem is now. There it is. It's America. America's the problem. No. So now it's straight no chaser to like Jeff and I play.
Not only that, like in addition, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you see at the exact same time that's happening, you see like all these liberals posting on like Instagram and Twitter and all these social media websites saying, oh, well, look at what the uncommitted movement brought it. Don't you wish that you had voted for, old girl now? And it's just
absolutely not.
It's like one of these sorts of things where, well, regardless of like where you come down on it at this point, the point that the idea that liberals are going to come in and be so smug about it and so like disgusting about it and like rub your face in it is like, don't you want liberalism now? Is literally like you're literally organizing the enemy. You're literally doing the thing that you're like complaining about when it isn't new. When you had in North Carolina flooding that took place, liberals were like, oh, that's a red state that went for Trump. They get what they deserve. Stuff like that is just.
Well, again, I don't celebrate the idea
suffering of anybody.
It's never. I celebrate the suffering of anybody, but I will look a liberal right in his face, and who would tell me that? And I have been like fighting that fight online, whatever. But like I will look them right in their face, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Donald Trump is objectively better for the Palestinian cause of a free state, of a free and independent state, than Joe Biden ever could. Joe Biden could never. Kamala Harris could never. And here's why: because you got the president of the United States sitting up there in 4K, just admitted he's planning crimes against humanity. We couldn't have got that out of Biden. Also,
he was working around the clock for the ceasefire, right?
Right. He was just spending the money.
But Biden had,
spending the money.
The thing is,
doing it, but he wasn't saying. He was hiding his hand.
Exactly. The Biden camp was talking to Egypt and Saudi Arabia and trying to get the same thing done, just under the sham of neoliberalism. And so now you've got the current president of the United States admitting to he's trying to commit crimes against humanity. Also, when he let those words of "we're going to take over Gaza" left his mouth, he's now united the Middle East. He's done a thing that like no liberal could have ever done. And he's now the idea of Saudi, and because what this is all about is that's what the Abraham Accords are about, was Saudi-Israeli normalization. That is dead. Because under no circumstances, forget the Palestinians never leaving, which they never will. Yeah. That's like the idea. I was talking to my neighbor on that.
They lived there for thousands of years.
I said the idea of that, they will never leave, because think about it. It's like Hurricane Katrina. If FEMA came in here after Hurricane Katrina and said, "Oh, well, New Orleans is unlivable, y'all got to leave," that would have never happened under any circumstances. So that's what we're talking about. But let's forget the Palestinians for the moment. Let's take that out of the equation. Egypt was never going to let that happen. Jordan's never going to let that happen. Lebanon's definitely never going to let that happen. Saudi Arabia never going to. Not because they're such heroes of the Palestinian cause and they're just fight for a free state, because they know their governments would fall overnight. The amount
100%.
The amount 100%. Of people, Egypt, for example, if one American boot hits the ground, Sisi in Egypt is not going to be able to hold back just common people coming across that wall.
Yeah,
and flooding into Palestine.
They'll do a Mussolini to them.
Absolutely. And you're talking about now, the one thing we're really, really bad, we can kill you from a million miles away. We can hellfire missile you, we can drone strike you all day. The one thing we cannot do, the one thing no empire can do is hold territory that far away from your supply lines with no help from any surrounding countries. That can never happen. Ask Vietnam, Afghanistan. Who else have we been? Korea. We've been doing, after World War II, our military has been doing nothing but eating losses all day, all night. Then on top of that, You're telling me you're going to put boots on the ground, Donnie? Boots on the ground if you have to? Let me tell you what I know. I've seen U.S. service members self-immolate themselves before serving this evil empire.
Yeah.
I know that kids, 19, 20-year-olds have been watching a genocide live streamed on TikTok.
And facing down cops and pepper spray and all those sound blasters and guns to do it, too.
Forget those kids. I mean, yes, absolutely. But forget those kids. You think the 19, 20, 22, 25, 30-year-old in the United States Marine Corps, Air Force, Army, Navy, National Guard has not been watching the IDF soldiers absolutely get washed by dudes in Adidas track pants and flip-flops for the past year? You think they're going to want some of that? You're going to have a hard time selling that to them. Yeah. We're going to enter if that plan even starts to take place, you're going to have Vietnam levels of just disorder in this country. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by like these are bad things, but this is better than what would have happened under the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And because the Democratic Party would have sold you some kind of line and we'd be doing the same thing. Just like Jeff, you told that story about, what about now? Wagging fingers. They're trying to tell you a fantasy fiction right now. I'd rather face the actual demon than have to go through the mini boss of neoliberalism. To equate this to video games, Jeff and I play a lot of video games. We're at the point where the final boss of the game, he's flashing red. You've put so much damage on him, he's flashing red. And of course, he's faster and he hits harder now. He's more dangerous. But make no mistake, he's bleeding out. He's dying. Mm-hmm. It's almost over. And that's why I take heart. That's why I don't get depressed. Every time I hear something crazy Donald Trump says, I'm like, bring it on. More. Pile more. Because the more people it hurts, the more people it affects, the more pushback we're going to get towards it. And again, I can't control any of this. All I can do is what these people have been doing for generations is taking advantage of a bad situation that they created. So they're creating the bad situation. I'm saying we need to take advantage of it and not let it depress us.
Mm-hmm. Do you think then New Orleans 102.3? Good morning, Comrade, Jeff, Robert, and MarkAlain Dery. Go ahead, MarkAlain.
Do you think that there's a resistance brewing then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've seen, what's been kept from us. Again, please, people, I know TikTok is kind of compromised, but get on TikTok, get on Red Note, get on Shanghai Shu. Watch these Latinx kids in LA shut down the highway and fight the cops. I'm not talking about, they're not protesting. They are fighting cops like, oh, this could be my last day in America. And you're not taking me without a fight. And that's the kind of energy we have to have. That it is what it is. It's this administration, is an existential threat to all of us. Mm-hmm. And that's the way you have to look at it. And you have to resist it in any way possible.
And if you think you're safe, by the way, and I'm talking to some of the liberals out there that are listening, and, thanks for listening, of course. But if you think you're safe, if you think your position of relative privilege or whatever it is going to protect you from this, maybe it will, but it probably won't. And when, it's like the old saying, like first they came for the communists and I said nothing from the communists and all the way up and down the line. And there was no one else but me. And, there was no one left to speak for me. That's going to be you. They're coming for you too. And I'm
not saying everybody needs, I have this conversation with people all the time. I'm not saying everybody needs to be out there with a bat fighting the cops. What I'm saying is know your role. Like there's people I know who are, they're husband and wife with multiple children. I'm like, your role is not to tear this down. Mm-hmm. Your role is to raise these kids so they can rebuild it the right way. I was like, so don't feel bad if you're not out in the streets. But like, if you can get out in the streets, get out in the streets.
And again, like part of this too, as this whole thing, I reran last week the interview we did with Matt Christman about the sort of like the idea of the grill pill and in this time of sort of like seeming for people who are seemingly like overwhelmed by all the stuff that's going on and the isolation that it provides. Do something in your life that has meaning. Do something in your life that means something that you can build on to develop a skill to get good at it. Because whatever this passes, they're going to need people that have skills in the new world.
Yeah, and I remember what I told Matt Christman, because I was like, my fear was, being on the Titanic. We had this thing. I was like, I did this analogy of like, the fear is being on the Titanic and the band plays and the ship goes down and nothing happens. But if I'm on the Titanic and I know, well, I might die, but I know that from here on out, there's going to be, in the law of the sea, there's going to be enough lifeboats for everybody, and this will never happen again. I can personally make peace with that. And I feel like that's where we are right now. I feel like the right things, the wrong people are advancing the ball in the way that like could potentially benefit society on the other end. But they're dumb and they don't even know they're doing it. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense, please tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, like I don't want to be crazy. So,
I mean, again, on the point of accelerationism, and like I want to really, really, really drive this home. The accelerationists are not like normal people. It's not even people who are like these like MAGA communists or whatever these freaks are who are like, oh, we need to support Donald Trump because we'll bring on socialism or whatever. But like, it is literally the people in the driver's seat of the the biggest seats of power that exist in this country and in the West generally. I mean, the idea that like you keep seeing these quote unquote, it's not actually a populist movement, but these sort of like quote unquote populist governments popping up in these Western nations because the establishment of neoliberalism is falling over. It is falling off and it is dying before our very eyes. When you see the people who defend that system, when you see the Democrat and all these sort of like center left quote unquote parties attempt to defend that and say like this is and I really do feel like the last off ramp towards this horror show that we're currently like headed like barreling towards with no break. Yeah, well, sure, we're there, we're going there. It doesn't really matter, but like it's coming no matter what. But the last off ramp to that was to blow off a little steam with the Bernie movement. Yes. That ship is sailed. That is over with, and now we are going straight down to crazy town.
Bernie was the last hope for capitalism because he would have kicked the can down the road.
FDR'd it a little bit,
kept the game going. Yes, but like the things that like when Trump said, oh, now we've gotten rid of the executive order to dismantle USAID. USAID, and I'm laughing like an unhinged maniac.
That's
because
like the worst imperialism movie.
You have Democrats coming out and saying, "Please don't do that," and they have to admit that it's a CIA front. And I'm like, can somebody tell Donald Trump and Elon Musk that the CIA is full of trans people and they're also woke? Can we do that as well?
I mean, also to be clear, USAID is where PEPFAR lives, and PEPFAR has single-handedly saved the lives of 25 million people of HIV.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course.
So, I got you. I know that USAID is an arm of soft power, and I recognize that, and I'm glad that, and here's another example of what you were talking about. More and more people now see that, and yes, they do recognize that USAID, but that I don't think they were closing. They've shut down. I can't even believe that we've shut down USAID. I don't think that the USAID has been closed because of the connections to the CIA. I think it was closed because it was just helping poor people. I think it was the most massive flex you could ever have, which is let me see what happens when the richest people in the world can completely F over the poorest people in the world. Yeah. I mean, that is in the world of billionaire class and status that those guys run around in whatever circles, effed up circles that they have there. That is the most incredible flex that you were able, as the richest man in the world, to exert your energy to completely take away what little crumbs the poorest people in the world had. You were able to remove it, not legally. It was a coup. You did it with a coup. This is what we're seeing ahead of us is a coup. It breaks my heart, to be honest with you. It's hard to talk about that and the CDC and the NIH. I know we're going to talk about that in a moment, but go ahead, Robert. I didn't mean.
No, I was going to say, see, Doc, see what I'm saying, but see how you proved my point there, Doc. Is that how you just defended a neoliberal organization? Because they come out with the good, and then they 100%. They stuff that poison pill in there.
But I'm also an HIV doctor. I recognize it. And I recognize I have a bias that's a mile long, and I'm also from North Africa. So like I've seen it. Like my family's from Morocco. I'm first generation American. I'm a child of immigrants. Like I've seen it work, and it's brutal. And I've worked when I was Ebola doctor working for WHO. I saw what USAID did. A lot of it was a waste. We could talk about that at another time. What they did was horrible, but they were there. They were doing it. That was Obama years, and he was actually doing the thing.
I want to jump in on that point because, like, it's not to say that nobody here, I don't even think Robert is saying that you obviously understand this as well, but like these arms of these soft power sort of like front of empire, it is going to, ass backwards into doing some good in the world, because with all of the wanton destruction that the U.S. empire does in order to like justify its own existence, it has to do some of these services to the world to sort of be like, we are the beacon of Western civilization, take that China or whatever. Like there has to be at least a story that the empire is telling itself, and do a little bit of and again, I'm not going to underestimate or undersell any of the actual good that comes from it, but like the idea that the idea that like we're going to, because the imperialism isn't going to stop because we cut off USAID and we smashed that to pieces. The hard part, it's only iron gauntlet now and no velvet glove.
Yes,
that's all it is. It is smash, 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 and no fix. There's not even going to be an attempt to rebuild the world in the American imperial image. It is just smash all the toys.
Yes, I want to live in a society, Doc, where it doesn't put good people like you into a trick bag, and you have to like defend evil because it's just some harm reduction.
No, I don't even think.
No. That's absolutely my point. I want to dance it to quote Marjorie Taylor Greene, the only good thing she's ever said. I want to dance in the sunlight so everybody can know the steps, and we don't have to pretend about stuff, and you don't have to put poison pills into good things so that way people will do them. It's like that is our MO. That's neoliberalism in a nutshell. It's like we break it, and then we tell you how we're going to fix it, and then on the back end of that, we're planning on how we're going to break it again.
Yep.
I do want to point another thing out too. Like we're also seeing, while we're seeing this sort of like velvet glove part of imperialism fall off, any kind of good that it can purport to do, getting completely and intentionally like targeted and killed. We're also seeing on the domestic end the way that this is being done across the board. It's not just USAID, but you see all of these. Institutions that were enacted by Congress, like our own constitutional system, and you see the president just step in and say, we're just scratching that and I can do it because I'm the president. Or, so we're seeing essentially what is happening, not only an imperial crisis, we're also seeing a domestic constitutional crisis that's taking place, where the only reason that this can happen is because you see, honestly, because the quote unquote opposition party of the Democrats is like approving Marco Rubio 99 to 0 to be the Secretary of State. You see like no brakes on this train, on this crazy train. It is going hard. And the people who are like, we must resist Donald Trump because he's uncouth or whatever, aren't doing anything to meaningfully stop this. They have literally given up, and they have said that they've given up, and they are blaming the people who are the most subject of this, the people that are in the targets, that are in the crosshairs of this whole thing. And they're like,
you got Hakeem Jeffries talking about, it doesn't matter who's in president because God's on the throne.
It's in God's hands.
Then quit, bro. Let me get your job.
How about Charlie Schumer? We will win. We will win. We will win. I mean, the lackluster, like I've always said, paid losers. Democrats are paid losers. But now we're like, I still can't believe that we are seeing a coup happen in front of our eyes. It is live. We're watching it on the news. I grew up in a very, 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 very religious Jewish home. Very, very religious, family from Morocco, and a lot of Holocaust, family in Holocaust, and a lot of folks escaped into Morocco, which was neutral zone. Obviously, that's what the movie Casablanca is all about. And so I had to go to Jewish schools and yeshivas growing up in Los Angeles. And in those days, in the 70s, growing up when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, we used to have to watch the actual black and white Holocaust films, the films that they found that the Nazis would film. And I remember, in those days you could be 8 and walk home, and I would walk the 5 blocks home, to get from the yeshiva to my house. And I remember just like walking home and thinking to myself as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, how did we get here? How did they allow that to happen? Yep. I thought, now, mind you, I think those films are child abuse. Like, they should not be showing starving, tortured human beings to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. They obviously, I don't think they're doing it now, but we had to watch that stuff. That was brutal stuff to have to watch. But I have been plagued for decades. How did they allow themselves in that situation? And it's clear. We're watching it now.
We're seeing it happen in real time.
We're watching it happen right now. And it's very, very clear. And it's scary. And the thing, and people I remember having discussions a year ago. They're like, listen, even if he wins again, our systems are too strong. How many times have we heard that? The guardrails are too strong. They collapsed like it was like a house of cards. Boom. Like the guardrails were held up by toothpicks and they just collapsed immediately. Like they literally just walked in, just got everybody out of the way, fired everybody, whatever, and and they're gonna steal. They're gonna do it. They've told us what they're gonna do. They wrote a 900-page book called Project 2025. So we know the playbook. They handed us the playbook and they were like, here's what we're gonna do. Read about it now because you are going to quote us later.
I literally see the position that we're in right now as being essentially like the very tail end of Soviet Russia, where you can literally see in real time the lots of like as the empire crumbles, you can see the lots and the big pieces of territory that are being carved off. The parts of our society, the parts of our government are being carved off and sold off to the rich, bureaucrats that exist. And I mean, you got I almost sort of see like Musk is like the Yeltsin figure, like coming in on a tank, like trying to do it. And the other thing that's so crazy about this is that like it's also happening where they're literally sending in their own like Hitler youth to do the dirty work.
Right. That's why I said these 20-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
That are beholden. Probably Musk got them laid a couple times. They probably played around a little bit with some of the ketamine. They're forever devoted to him, and that's it. And that's all it takes.
Yeah, they wish they were level 97 in whatever game.
Oh, Path of Exile 2? Not the game I'm playing right now as I talk to y'all.
You gotta catch Elon some kind of way, right?
I've been called him.
What a loser, man. God, he's got to fake his way through video game greatness.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. When do you, so two questions for you, 2 different topics, so choose one. Either one, when do you think violence starts, and when do you think that becomes normalized, and how does that parlay, how do you see that moving down the line? And 2, maybe these are related questions. They just need to write one bad code where Medicare payments stop, or where Social Security payments stop, or Medicaid. 72 million people on Medicaid. I mean, what is it? What is the thing that could collapse? It's any one of these things. We saw how quick the guardrails came down. So what kind of guardrails does society have? When do people pick up the pitchforks and you understand what I'm asking? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say violence on what end?
Yeah. Well, violence has been going on.
Well, violence. I was meaning violence onto us, but you're right. I mean, violence on what end?
Violence on us is already happening. Like I said, I can take you to the concentration camp right now.
Right.
So that's somebody asked me the other day. One of my friends asked me, "It's like, well, what's your trigger for? Oh, you're going to leave the country?" And I said, "Oh, we've already passed it, but I just don't have the money. I'm trying to save the money right now, and like my last payment thank God, like I have homework to do after this. I graduate in May from the University of Cincinnati. My last student loan payment just went through." I just made it under the radar. So it's like, we're past that. We're past that. When you're going to see violence from people in the street, that isn't happening right now, because it is happening, but they're just, I don't want to sound like we live and they live or something, but like if you're just watching TV, you're not seeing it. If you're just online and not in the right, if you're on YouTube and not in the right algorithm, you're not seeing it. But it's already happening. It's going to take, I would say, people's material conditions are going to have to get a little bit worse.
When the jalapeno poppers stop flowing, that's when you're going to see
the tariffs. Really, it depends. I think it hinges on the Chinese tariffs, because everybody who's super excited about these Chinese tariffs that do not realize that the United States makes nothing. We're a consumer nation that depends on exploiting the world's labor force for literally everything we have. So it's like we're pointing a gun at China and Mexico and Canada, but everybody knows we have no bullets in the gun. Like Canada's playing nice with us. They could shut off our heat tomorrow. Literally shut off the shale oil, and it's all over. China could just say, "Oh, you want to do what? What are they doing? 10% tariffs or whatever they say they backed it down from 60. China can just say 100%. How about 100% tariffs on everything exported? We'll do it for you. We'll put 100% taxes on everything that comes from us to you. We'll help you out." And then all of a sudden,
the economy instantly.
Yeah, and when Mima can't buy anything at Walmart anymore,
when Temu shuts down.
Oh, it's not even that. Like I buy stuff off of Temu and AliExpress because it's like, why would I buy off of Amazon if I can wait on something? I can get it for half the price, and instead of doing this dance and pretending that everything we own isn't made in China. So, but as soon as like it hits retail, yeah, it's going to be these people will. Here's the fear though, Doc, is that if that happens and the situations get bad enough, it's going to take people like Jeff to like talk to those people to make sure that their anger is pointed in the right direction. Because my fear is, here's my actual fear, is things are going to get materially bad for a broad swath of people in the country. They're going to want blood, and Trump's going to give them that blood.
He's going to give him the permission structure.
Exactly.
I mean, the fact that he already allowed,
already doing it.
He gave the Jan 6ers the opportunity to perform violence on the police and to other people, and they all got out of jail. What does that say in terms of people who, you're right, if they're going to want their pound of flesh on, they're going to take owning the libs to a whole new level, which is incredibly. But to go back to your point about tariffs, I wanted to ask you guys something. I have a colleague of mine who works in the hospital, and he, as some doctors do, are stock market people. And he said that there's an index called the VIX. And he says the VIX is an index that actually bets against the market. So it's an index that bets against the market. And he was like, I think what Trump did was know that the stock markets were going to crash, probably called a couple of his people, said, go ahead and jump on this market, get the index, whatever. I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't, but buy these or whatever. And what he showed me on his phone, the app that he carries that he can always see where it is. You see a spike. It was baseline. And then boom, this huge spike that lasted a couple hours as the stocks crashed. The VIX market got super hot for a second, and then it crashed after a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of money's exchanging hands in that little period, isn't it? I mean,
so it's an interesting thought, and
that's just like that's just a formalization of how the wealth is being redistributed and concentrated amongst these these already extremely wealthy people. They're just using, essentially, it's almost like they're distilling it and putting it into a situation where they accumulate.
And he can control the markets. I mean, that's real power. That's the ability to control the financial markets so that you know that whatever it is that you say or do will affect the markets the next day, and you, in this case, bet against it. That was like, I swear, I think obviously we all think about this sort of stuff regularly, but when he hit me with that, I was just like, wow, that's really interesting. I had not thought about that.
So I don't think personally that Donald Trump is smart enough to short the market and to take shorts and then do.
I think the people around him are
exactly. Because I think Trump just operates like a dumb animal. Like he just, if it serves him in the moment, then it is. Because the stuff he says, going back to my Gaza thing, he does so, and USAID, he does so many things that are detrimental to what he wants to get done, but he's too stupid to know that it's going to backfire him on the long term. And thank God for that we don't have, at least we have a dumb fascist and not a smart fascist yet. But I agree with you. You stole my thunder. The people around him are definitely smart enough to, I mean, you could forget the Republicans, the people around them. I mean, you could follow the, who made a bunch of money when the markets crash? Nancy Pelosi. You can follow the Nancy Pelosi fund. There are investors who all they do is follow her trades.
Yeah,
she's
heard
insider
about
trading.
Right, I've heard about that. Yeah, 100%.
Obvious insider trading.
Yeah, obvious.
Well, I do want to wind this up really quickly, but before I do that, we have about 2 minutes left. I did want to give another shout out to the University Medical Center nurses who are once again on strike. This is sort of like, again, we're talking about the sort of like state of flux and chaos that we're currently existing in. Part of that chaos and flux is also providing some opportunities for workers to stand up and to fight for their material benefits and their material conditions. And for the past 2 days, 5th and 6th as of recording, which is today and tomorrow, I believe. I'm sorry, yesterday and today, there has been a strike at UMC. Strike is this second one that they've had, and it's demand the progress on their union contract. This is another ULP strike, and get out there, support the troops and support the workers that are out there standing up, because these nurses, these folks are literally the people that take care of all of the people that are in hospitals and that are in that have very intense care, and they get treated. They work long hours. They don't get paid enough, and their benefits and they're short staffed. All this stuff we talked about it last time. You can go look at our last episode because none of those issues have really changed. But as this sort of like contract fight has progressed, we're definitely seeing workers definitely willing to stand up for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Erin just came from there, and she brought me food, so I'm very excited to eat that when we're done here.
Yeah.
I think that obviously worker. I think I've said this a million times. I think that if physicians had unionized in the 70s like they wanted to, but there was such a pushback, of physicians who didn't unionize.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I have this conversation with older doctors, they're, we weren't going to unionize. In those days, the idea, the class consciousness was so profound, which was, blue collar workers unionize. We're physicians. We don't need to do that. And I always stop them, and I'm like, how'd it turn out?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, then that's when they realize, yeah. Maybe if we had unionized, we wouldn't see the healthcare system that we're in right now, because we would have been so strong as a single voice that there's no way, we would have had a single payer healthcare system. We would have been a lot, we would have easily been able to push back on that. So I think healthcare workers striking, obviously, I support. Certainly, I wish physicians had had unionized back in the days when we had the opportunity to do so. That ship has unfortunately sailed. Maybe this is something that younger generations can do, and I certainly hope that they do. We have seen smaller unions of residents that happen in hospitals. I think that's been good. I've never heard of doctors striking, but I think, Jeff, are there folks that are striking in Oregon right now? I think there are nurses and physicians that are striking in I want to say Mercy Health, but I don't know. I may be making that up right now, and apologies for not having this directly on the tip of my fingers. But I think that there are folks that are striking right now in Oregon.
Yeah. So yes, there is a contingent of folks on there. I don't have the details handy, but yes, I am aware that there are actions that are taking place in not just Oregon, but across the country. I mean, this is something that's not isolated necessarily. Obviously, there are specifics to each geographic location, but these are tendencies and fights that are taking place across the entire industry. And super last thing, and we do got to jump, but like a lot of times you'll see unions and union leaders and a lot of stuff that's going along with that not necessarily align with what is specifically happening on the day-to-day of the sort of like politics mess that we're constantly seeing. That's because that is a like union politics or class politics, and that is something that transcends any moment, and it is a long game power building exercise, and people need to realize that unions are building power for the working class, full stop, because it is getting more power in the capitalist system into the hands of workers. More power 100%. Is being built by workers. And, unions might not always be as democratic as we hope. They might not always work the way we want to, and they might not come down in a certain this or that position that makes any kind of logical sense. However, like in the long run, unions good, workers good, and got to support the troops.
100%.
Absolutely.
Jeff, I know that we have to go. I just want to say real quickly in one sentence, bird flu's moving in the wrong direction. And we are getting mutations that are moving us closer and closer to human transmission. And I'd love to come back on and we can chat about it. But just if I could summarize it in one sentence, if with RFK coming on board, if he does get voted in, that's almost 100%.
Count on it to happen. I mean,
then the other atrocious and horrific thing is that the muting of the CDC and NIH. But those are other conversations. I know we have to go, but just a teaser for at some point in the future.
Cool. Well, thanks again, MarkAlain Dery, as ever. Robert, thank you as ever for coming on the show. You can definitely check us out, goodmorningcomrade.com. And thank you so much for listening every Saturday, 10 a.m., WHIV FM 102.3. We love you. Bye-bye. Hold up on